Thank you for coming in tonight. I appreciate you. It is a blessing to see you here in the Lion's Den. I am the spiritual thought leader, Regina L. Stillman, and I'm so glad that you joined me. If you've not read from Genesis to Revelation in your lifetime, or if you want to do it again, this is the place to be. So I appreciate you coming in 6 o'clock every evening. I want to speak to those that are already here. Listen, DJ Rock and Ron, that's my brother, came in just spreading love all over the place. Right behind him was the Bishop of Twitch, One Reason, who's in the house. Then we got Chef Nobi out here just feeding the people. I'm telling you what, listen, got my mouth just watering, child, just watering. I appreciate everybody that's here in the chat. To those that may be out auditing and listening, but you're not actually with me in the chat right now, I appreciate you just for being here, and you're welcome in this place. Now, let's get right on. You know how we do. We go straight to the word. We don't do a lot of talking and belaboring the time. I want to start in Genesis, the 45th chapter. Now, as I told you all on yesterday, the conversation that I had was Joseph did not leave Egypt. The people, his family, had to leave where they were and come to him. And there comes a point in time where you need to set that standard, begin to move and operate in who you are as far as your created self that God intended you to be from the beginning. Once you go through that transformation, do not keep going back to try to save others and whatnot. They need to come to you. Don't lower your standard. Let them raise theirs. Now, that being said, and someone said, Jabez, I think it was, as we were leaving on yesterday, he said, all in love, because when you start talking about separating and standing your ground and so on and so forth, I know we have a lot of, what's the word I want to use? I don't know if I'd say angst or anxiety, but there's concern. And I think that's the word I want to use. Concern that we not be in some kind of negative energy and deceiving ourselves and saying, whatever. But I do want to say tonight, as I come back, which is what I was going to do anyway, it's always about love. If you are missing the love in a situation, God is not in it. I said what I said, and I'll add to it before I take it back. If you are missing the love in a situation, God is not in it, because God is love. And I don't care how you package it up. I don't care how you tee it up and sell it for God and what God wills and what God wants. If it's absent and void of love, God is not in that. So when I look at the scripture, and this is where I was going to go tonight, so it's just an opportunity to loop back around. When I look at the scripture in the 45th chapter of Genesis, then Joseph could not refrain himself. Now, this is after his brethren have come. He sent them back, kept Benjamin, which to Israel's, oh my God, like he said, I just might as well go ahead and die. I just can't take it. But at this point, they have come back. Joseph is getting ready to reveal himself. He could not refrain himself before all them that stood by him, which included the Egyptians that were there. Because remember, he was a man of authority and a man of renown. So he had attendants and whoever else might have been there. And he cried, cause every man to go out from me. And there stood no man with him. So all of his court, he sends them away. And he just stays there with his brothers, while Joseph made himself known unto his brethren. And as I said on yesterday, karma, whatever you want to call it, reaping what you sow, it's the same. Many, many times, those very ones that have done you wrong, it is you who God will position in a way where they have to come back and acknowledge what they've done, or acknowledge, at least come into your presence. And whether they said anything or not, I know every last one of them were feeling some kind of way when they realized this was Joseph that they were talking to. And I have to think their minds went back to when they buffeted him and when they were so angry, and all the negative energy they had when he, at a young man's age, told them there's going to come a day when he shared the dreams that you're going to bow down to me and whatever. I'm sure that came back to them and hit them like a ton of bricks. That this young man, He told the truth. So at the end of the day, they're standing there, they're remembering all of the hatred, all of the anger. And this is the thing about Joseph, because when Joseph sent him back, he sent them with food, he sent them with provisions, he sent them with everything that they needed. And this part right here is where we look at, I stand my ground. I am lifting up a standard that says I'm doing a good work. I won't come down, but yet and still look at the compassion and the love and the provision that Joseph makes for them in sending them home. Now, as they've come back and he begins to reveal himself to them as to who he is, he wept so loudly that everybody in the kingdom, I'll say everybody that was in Pharaoh's house heard him weeping and wailing and crying. That's just how deep his emotions were running. But the beautiful thing that I really love about Joseph, and this is, Joseph is just my guy. Can I say that? He's not my only guy, but he's just my guy, because at the end of the day, he models for us. He woke the whole palace. One reason, he was really doing some weeping and wailing. You understand? But this was years of pent up emotion, and then even the sense of being overwhelmed with, these are his brethren, whom, he was not uh distancing himself from them. They sold him off into slavery. They sold him off to the Ishmaelites. Didn't know where he was going to end up. Didn't quite care where he was going to end up. I think the only one out of the brethren that might have cared a little bit was Reuben, because as I said a couple of days ago, it was Reuben's intention to go back and get Joseph out of that pit. But before he could get back, his brothers had already sold him to the Ishmaelites. So, who then in turn sold him to Potiphar, who then, after Potiphar's wife lied on him, he ended up in prison. And then he ended up being over the whole entire prison. Every place he went, God put him in a position of authority and power, because he was just that man. But that emotion, after all of those years and seeing his brothers, he couldn't refrain himself. And so at the end of all of this, I just look at Joseph and I'm seeing how he really had a heart that cared. Excuse me. He really had a heart that cared about his family, but he needed to be in Egypt. I said this the other day. If we look at how much of civilization and how much knowledge, how much understanding, how much school, especially his little brother, one reason, especially his little brother, because that was his one and only connection back to his mother. And I can only imagine one reason, the relationship after his mother died, after Rachel died, excuse me, and it was just, now, yes, he had the other brothers, but this was his whole brother. And the connection that that whole brother provided for him directly back to his mother, and the fact that his mother died in childbirth having him, in my mind, I would suspect one reason that there was a very, very special bond that existed between Joseph and Benjamin. I think in my mind, he would have been that guy that would have been that perfect, just special big brother that took care of, guarded, protected, loved on his little brother, especially now that his little brother had no mother. So I can just imagine how intense that emotion was. So when we get here to the next scripture, it says, and Joseph said to his brethren, I am Joseph. Doth my father yet live? And I can only imagine that too, because at this point he doesn't know, is my father alive? Is he dead? And his brethren could not answer him, for they were troubled at his presence. Now, conscience. People's conscience will have a way with them. You understand what I'm saying? They couldn't answer the question because they were troubled at his presence. Number one, he made himself known to them that who he was. And I know they had to think, what is he going to do to us after all this that we have done to him? After all of the evil, after all of the ill will, after all of our energy and negative behaviors towards him, and look at the position of authority that he has. That part, because he could have decreed and he could have spoken anything with regard to his brother, and it would have happened. He had that power, he had that authority. So they're thinking he's going to use his authority, he's going to use his power, and God only knows what's about to happen to us right here. And Joseph said to his brethren, "Come near to me, I pray you." And they came near. And he said, "I am Joseph, your brother, who you sold into Egypt." Now we're going to deal with some truth here. And that part, and again, not in negative energy, it's still all in love. But I do want to stop on this point. You can't just go back as if nothing happened and not address. Now, he's not going to rake them through the coals for what they did, but he does speak truth to them. I'm your brother that you sold into Egypt. Because this is the thing. One thing about it, they had to know without a shadow of a doubt, this isn't somebody acting like they're Joseph. This is Joseph because he knows the story. He knows what's gone on and he's able to tell. Now, therefore, be not grieved nor angry with yourselves that ye sold me hither. For God did send me before you to preserve life. Come on here. Just like I just had this very conversation about your sisters. Come on here, Chef Nobi. This is the thing. God sent me here so I could preserve you. Not only your life, but life overall. I've preserved the life of the Egyptians. I've preserved the life of all of those in the surrounding areas. And I was watching, I am a lover of history. So I was watching as they were talking about how Egypt, that cradle of civilization in knowledge, in math, in all kinds of studies, and obviously they still have not figured out how in the world did they build those pyramids. I mean, we're just talking about everything that blows the mind here in Egypt. So we look and we see that he's preserved that element that is there. He's also preserved other people's lives around them. And they said Egypt was one of the earliest civilizations that took the idea of saving and storing up so that when days of leanness came, they had provisions and people had to come to them. And they were a hub for commerce because they had when everybody else had not. So we see this, and I wouldn't be surprised if this is not the beginning of that very element where Joseph has now told them about the 7 years of plenty and then the 7 years following, and they begin to store up. And I imagine the money, the finance, the commerce that was developed from that put them on the map in and of itself as having what you need in your time of need, and we are sufficient. We are able to provide. So he says, God sent me here to preserve life, not just his immediate family. And this is what I want you all to understand. God is preparing and ready to utilize you in such a way that the blessing is not just for you. The blessing isn't just for your immediate environment, but when we really, and I believe this with all my heart, when we really start aligning ourselves in intimate relationship with God and become the Josephs of this time, God is going to allow us to be just like he said, we will be the preservers of life. We will be the preservers of life. For these 2 years hath the famine been in the land, and yet there are 5 years in the which there shall neither be earning earing nor harvest. Now, remember he told them 7 years, and I love the accuracy to which, and I'm going to say this about false prophets. When y'all get out here and these folks are giving these generic prophecies that could fit anybody in the room, or when you have what I will say, the trying to mystify the folks with, oh, right over here, I feel somebody got cancer. Well, over in this area, I feel diabetes. Over here, I see somebody with heart trouble. You can go almost anywhere and start naming off some stuff, and somebody's going to have it. That does not mean that you are flowing in the prophetic and that God is giving you an unction and a revelation. Notice here, he said, listen, we've been in famine for 2 years, so we know it's 5 more left. We know because the accuracy that he got from God was not just something to try to tickle the people's ears and mystifying them and make it look like, because I'm telling you, and by very well-intentioned people too. I do want to say that. I think there are some that are out there and they are charlatans, but there are some that, because, can I say it like this? Prophesying over people is so trendy right now. It's just trendy. And don't let somebody prophet lying in the pathetic. That's that, and you are absolutely right. Stay lifted. That's exactly what it is. Prophet lying in the pathetic. That's how psychics work. So come on here. One reason y'all talking to me. So at the end of the day, well, I know some psychics that are point on. So at the end of the day, this has become so trendy, and it's almost like for preachers, y'all ain't even having a fat meat greasy vision and prophetic word. You're just making up stuff, because at the end of the day, if you want to, in these days and times, be perceived as, it's a good trend. If you want to be perceived as a mighty person of God, you got to come out here with something that's going to keep the people's attention. And don't get caught in that, y'all. Don't get caught in it, because at the end of the day, well-intentioned or not, it's a lie. The folks are out here prophet lying, just like Stay Lifted said, and there's nothing to it. And we get buffeted about with every wind and doctrine and every prophetic word and this and that and the other. Don't do it. What we see manifesting in my brother, he is so on point. He's able to say, we've been in 2 years, 5 more left. And God sent me before you to preserve you up a posterity in the earth and to save your lives by a great deliverance. So this is where I want us to get this understanding very, very clear in our minds and in our hearts. Don't get out here and get caught up with folks that are just speaking stuff over your life. Recognize people have itching ears. They want to hear what they want to hear, because listen, when you get words of correction, oh, that ain't God, and have nerve to get an attitude. Like, I know God ain't trying to correct me. That ain't my word. You better go back and get another word, because that's not it. So, because at the end of the day, if your heart and your energy is right, you'll love all of the prophetic positive. You're going to get this, that, and the other, but you will also have the yieldedness to take a word of correction. When you have people that cannot be corrected, there is a problem. When you have people that will not, I know what I'm saying, been there, done that with some folk, and the first part of their spirit that manifests that they're not right, they will not take any correction. I don't care how you deliver it. You can deliver it with love. You can deliver it with grace. You can deliver it with tenderness and kindness. They will not be corrected. And that lets you know right there, baby, that is the wrong spirit. You don't need a revelation from God. That is the wrong spirit. When you got folks that are too, I know, and I love correction as well, because it's teaching you something, Chef Novi. And I know, I don't feel too badly, because I watch and observe. It's not just you that can't give them correction. They don't take correction from anybody, including their parents. So, I've sat and I've observed and I've watched, and I'm like, that same spirit that's going on in their household with their parents, that same spirit is what they're going to bring into ministry, because that's the spirit they operate from. You don't need a great revelation for that. Come on now. But yet and still, nobody wants that to be called out. And I'm not saying do it in a public. I do not believe in publicly shaming people. I do not believe in that. I do not. Now, as my mama said, when I was growing up, come on here, Dr. Dady Priest. I'm talking facts in here. So my mama said, where you cut up at, that's where I'm going to get you at. You think you're going to get me out here in front of these people? Or you think you're going to get me in the school or whatever? Wherever you cut up and show your tail at, that's where I'm going to get you at. And sometimes this is the place and the way, if people are bold enough to go forth publicly, some of them need to be corrected publicly. Only because that word has gone out amongst the people and it needs to be corrected, not only to the person, but to the people that have heard that person. So there are certain, but I still don't believe even in that, that there's an energy that's shaming people. So let's be clear on that. So now it was not you that sent me hither, but God. His heart has planned. I told y'all that the other day, that old song of the church. Have faith in God. Though dark the clouds may be today, his heart has planned your path and mine. Just have faith in God. God sent and ordered my steps. You didn't do this. The Lord ordered my steps for this very purpose, to preserve your life and for posterity's sake, because remember, God had prophesied to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, I'm going to make you as the sands of the field. I'm going to make you as the stars in the sky, on the beaches, wherever you want to find sand. I'm going to make you just that numerous, just that awesome in number. So for posterity's sake, this must needs have happened, just so that I could preserve your life and the lives of those to come. So this is what I love about Joseph. He's very clear about everything that happened, which allows him to operate with no animosity, with no hatred, with no angst, with no negativity in his spirit towards his brethren whatsoever, because he realizes what it's all been about. Now, he did address the fact, yep, I'm your brother that you sold into Egypt. And I'm going to, again, reiterate that point, because a lot of times we want to just act like nothing ever happened. And at the end of the day, I'm not getting ready to browbeat you. I'm not. I'm not getting ready to take you to task, and I'm not getting ready to beat you down, and I'm not getting ready to go back and try to no. Because at the end of the day, I understand, even in what we want to say is negative, God, by his divine wisdom and power, had ordered my steps. And so at the end of the day, even for the folks that meant me ill and tried to do evil against me, baby, at the end of the day, they were the tool that was used to get me to my blessed place. All right? They were the tool that was used to get me, to help get me to my blessed place. I'm not going to curse that. I'm not going to act out with it. Now, like I told you on yesterday, there are spaces and times when Joseph didn't go back. The only way Joseph went back to the house of his fathers, when they carried his dead bones. And his dead bones had been dead and dry a long time before they went back. But while he yet lived, come on, glory to God. You better come on here, One Reason, with the praise. While he yet lived, they had to come to him. But what I'm telling and sharing with you is that you can judge by the attitude. You can judge by the energy. You can judge by the way that they're operating and manipulating. Are we moving in the will of God, or is this some anger acting out, retribution against people that did something against me? And beloved, sometimes you have to really stop and search your heart and do introspection to make sure it's not the latter and you're deceiving yourself and saying, I'm doing this in love. What did I say on yesterday? When you can thrust your hand, come on, thrust your hand in the wound in my side and it doesn't hurt anymore, then you're healed. But as long as you're flinching, as long as you're gritting your teeth, as long as Jesus said, touch me not, for I have not yet ascended to my Father. As long as you have not ascended to healing in that space, it's going to manifest. I promise you it will. It's going to show up and show out and show off exactly where you're healed and exactly where you still need healing. But we want to come to a place where we are whole. We want to come to a place where we are healed, and that may take a process. But don't play the game of not acknowledging what you're dealing with. You have to, wait, what is AA and all the other A's? You got to first admit that there is a problem. You can't run around here acting like there's no problem and playing this game of deception with yourself, because you're doing nothing but deceiving yourselves. So you do have to deal with it. But then the energy that comes after I identified and acknowledged how we got here, I'm not getting ready to go step by step, inch by inch, trying to rehash all of that. Because what's the point? What's the point? As he said, God did this so that I could preserve your life. Haste ye, hurry up, and go get my father, and say unto him, thus saith thy son Joseph, God hath made me the Lord of Egypt. Come down unto me and stay here with me. The first step to recovery is admitting that you have a problem. One reason. That's the first step to recovery. And I can watch so many times how people are saying, oh, I want this for my life. I want that for my life. But you can see they still have not admitted to themselves that they have a problem. And as long as they are in that space and in that headspace and mindset, you can't do anything until they are able and ready to admit they have a problem. There's an issue here, but you cannot stick your head in the sand. And for me, that's an area that, some of us have been in places where we, especially church folk and folks that have been raised in the church, they love to do the stick your head in the sand behavior. Act like it never existed. I'm an ostrich. Just stick your head in the sand. It never happened. Oh, yes, it did. And we're not going to speak of it. We're not going to talk about it. We're not, baby, and just as unhealthy can be. And so there comes a point even where when you decide it's time to address a situation and we're not going to continue on in this behavior, because what is insanity? You keep doing things the way you've always done them and expect for there to be a change. That's insane. If your family system, hear me, if your family system, if your friends system, if your church system is to stick your head in the sand and act like nothing is going on, you don't see it, you see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil. I'm not hearing, speaking, and seeing evil out of anything other than truth. If you cannot deal in truth, it's still a lie and deception. So this is where we've got to, in these days, 2025 and beyond. We cannot continue in that trend. So this is where, for me, I'm like, okay, I know my friends. I know my family. I know the ones that have their heads dug in the sand and acting like an ostrich, like nothing ever happened. If I bring up a point and you still address me and work with me in the energy, nothing is going on. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm completely confused and deceived. I don't waste my breath trying to explain it because they're not ready to hear it. Why are they not ready to hear it? Their ears, their eyes, their mouth is buried in the sand. So there's nothing that's going to come out of this. There's no point in me wasting my time. But once we get to this point now that we've actually addressed the problem, we're ready to heal and we're ready to recover. Now, haste ye, go get my daddy. And don't listen, I want him to come. I want him to come here and stay. And thou shalt dwell in the land of Goshen, and thou shalt be near unto me, and thy children, and thy children's children, and thy flocks, and thy herds, and all that you have. So listen, this is so generous on Joseph's part. Y'all come here and I'm going to take good care of you. I'm going to provide you with the area where you can stay. Goshen is going to be your property, your land where you have an opportunity to thrive. Not just be here and exist in misery, but you have an opportunity to be here with me and thrive. And there will I nourish thee. Look at, this brother is the epitome of I have no ill will towards you, even though you mistreated me. Come on. I'm going to nourish you. Some of us would have been like, sit over here and starve before I do. Before I lift a finger, your ribs will be stuck to your back and you'll be starving and dead hungry. I'm not lifting a finger after what you did. Check your energy on that, because that's not the energy that we're going for here. Because again, the love, how can I sit here as your family and watch you starve and not lift a finger? But I've seen it happen. I've seen it happen in families. You got somebody out here that's struggling and barely making it, and folks that have it within their means to be able to be a blessing will shut up their bowels of compassion and look, listen, I had to go out and get mine. You go get yours. Really? Really? Listen, they treated me like da 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 da. What goes around comes around. Figure it out. Now, I just want us to check our energy, check our attitudes, check our mindset. That's why I told you Joseph is my God, because Joseph is, on every front, he just checks off the boxes. I love this brother. I will always feed you. Food has a way of bringing love together. Now, you're right about that, Chef Noe. You are absolutely right about that. And many times, whether it's a job interview, whether it's a time of reconciliation, whether you're trying to bridge the gap between faith communities or organizations or groups, many times they will fashion it around food, because food does have a way of bringing us together and maybe even allowing us to let down some barriers that are there, some walls that exist, and go ahead and press forward. Because once you get your belly full, once you get your belly full and you're feeling pretty good and it was mighty tasty, now we can think right, we can talk right, we can interact just a little bit differently. There's just something about good food that'll make you come on around. It just is. Now, whenever I'm around folks with that disposition, I'm always wondering how long it will be before I'm done that way. You're right about it. You're right about it, Dr. Dady. And that part, Chef Nobe, that part. And listen, pay attention. Pay attention, because the things that you see when they operate in that way, and that's their disposition, you can rest assured your day is coming, Dr. Dady. It's going to get around to you eventually, and you're going to be right in that same boat, and that behavior that you've observed is now going to be exacted against you. And hey, it just is what it is. Sometimes, let me put it like this. I love Rebel. Rebel has been such a blessing to my life. Is such a blessing to my life. And one of the things that she would often say to me, because I would see stuff and be completely aware of it. But I always would come back and be like, but I want to give them the benefit of the doubt. And Rebel's infamous or famous saying to me, the benefit of the doubt's going to kill you. Because you always giving folks the benefit of the doubt when you see right in front of your eyes how they're operating. No. And she was always a lot more forthright and she just was like, hey, it is what it is. You saw what you saw. Stop playing. But as Dr. Dady said, once you see their disposition and you're around them, baby, it's coming back around to you. It's going to happen. Please believe it. The itis will help to cultivate a sense of comfortability, Dalen. The food will do it, honey. I'm telling you, it will. Good evening to all of you that are coming in. I saw Tall Pumps a minute ago. So much love to you as well. And behold, your eyes see, and the eyes of my brother Benjamin, that it is my mouth that speaketh unto you. Without a doubt, this ain't somebody, this is not an imposter. I am who I said I am. Now we look, and ye shall tell my father of all my glory in Egypt, and of all that ye have seen, and ye shall haste and bring down my father hither. Now, can I say this? He is not being egotistical. He's telling the truth. And he's basically saying, go tell my father what has become of me here in Egypt, and tell him the truth. Why am I saying that? Because, again, take up space. So many of us, so many of you all have chosen to always downplay, to always downsize who you are, what you are, what you have, and what you possess. And I'm not talking about so much just materialistically, but I'm saying there is greatness in you. And you keep downplaying and downsizing the greatness that is in you. And so how do we think that benefits the kingdom? Ye are a city set on a hill that cannot be hid. The whole intent is for the world to be able to see you and glorify your Father which is in heaven. But what do we see? what we see more times than not is low self-esteem, negativity. You know what I'm saying? It's always the lesser. But I love how Joseph, without being egotistical, without having a I'm stuck on myself kind of attitude, he says, I want you to tell the truth. Stand tall and prosper, Chef Nobi. That's what I want to say. Stand tall and prosper. There's nothing wrong with it. It's a testament of the God that you serve. I personally, and I'm going to say this, and I know this will be offensive to some. I personally do not understand, feel, nor agree with the idea that God's getting some kind of glory out of us being so downtrodden and so tore up from the floor up. I just miss me with that. Miss me with that. That is not, we serve the great God, the God above all gods, the King above all kings, and we're like paupers and poor. I mean, I'm just like, where does all this come from? How do we anticipate that this is a testimony that speaks well of the God that we serve? And again, I'm not just making it about materialistic things. What did I say? We talked about polishing the gift. Listen. And one reason I want to thank you for sending that to me. Let me see. Let me go out one more time because Dalen blessed our socks off on the other day. Listen. Things that are lustrous require lots of work, dedication, and time, and not everybody is willing to go the distance. Oh, we want to shine. We want that luster, but we don't want the work, we don't want the dedication, and we don't want to give the time that it takes to go the distance. Come on here. And I believe that that is exactly where we need to be positioned, especially in this hour, especially in this season and time in the earth, because they need to see something different. I was taught to always be the best version of myself at all times. And that's it right there, Chef Nobi. Whatever you're going to be. I remember my great uncle, they used to tell the story, and I'm sure you all of it. I don't care if you're a janitor. I don't care if you, listen, the position, the title, none of that matters, but be your best self. If that's the best of who you are, and again, outside of your employment, outside of your income, and outside, are you the best you? Your heart, your mind, your attitude, your energy. Have you polished the gifts? Yes, people want the glory, but they don't want to walk out the story, Dr. Dady. You better come on in here and talk to me. You want the glory, but you don't want to walk out the story. It doesn't work like that, beloved. You've got to actually work out your soul salvation. You understand? You got to polish the gift. If you want to be lustrous, it's going to require the work, the dedication, and the time. And it also has to have the commitment from you. I'm willing to go the distance. Come on. I'm willing to go not part of the way, not till I get tired, no, all the way. I need you to go the distance. So here we have him telling, and he's really just speaking of his own, what has become of his life. Why? Because he has been consistent. He has been polished. His shine, everywhere he went, his shine is almost blinding. My cousin and I talked about this earlier today. Showing up and presenting your best in every situation. We can't afford a misstep. We've got to show something different. And and I'm going to speak this to especially people of color. This is the history from which we've come. This is what our ancestors left us. That's why if you notice, even on the beginning of the stream, one of the things I have walk in the door like your ancestors opened it. When we start talking about the ancients of people of color and the greatness that we were and we did and we are still, but it's like we have amnesia or something has happened where we don't understand exactly who we are and where we've come from. But this is from whence we came. This is where we came from. I think about my mom. And she would often say to me, and it covered all grounds, not just my physical appearance. Don't you go out of here, don't you go out of here looking like the way she pronounced the word, she didn't say orphan. She said, don't you go out of here looking like an orphan. And she meant that thing. Meaning, go out here and represent like the parents that you have and what we've instilled in you and what we've given you. That's the way you go out that door. Don't you go out here like you don't, don't you go out of here like no orphan. And that's no negativity towards those that are orphaned. That's not what I'm saying. But basically, if you understand the concept of her gist when she would say that to us, Anna Marie is your mama. John Edward is your daddy. Go out there and represent us. Listen, you knew what it was. They said what they said, Dr. Dady. You better represent. You got a mama and a daddy. Don't walk out of here looking any other way. You got a mama and daddy that takes care of you, feeds you, provides for you. Don't you go out of here looking like nothing but what I raised you to be. When you go to school, listen, my sisters and I, you better not bring, if you had the ability, and we did, you better not bring a B in the house. Can I tell the truth? If it was an A minus, she wanted to know what was going on with the minus. Why? Because she knew the ability for greater was there. And she knew if she saw A minus, it was because I was clowning and doing something that I didn't have any business. I haven't turned in some homework. Something's going on. Because listen, your ability and the capacity that you have, you don't need to come in here with the A minus. And she wasn't playing. She meant that thing. But she also, let me tell you this, when we came home, let me see your homework. Let me see your homework. Is your homework done? Let me look at it. Dad, my father, check it. Take a look at it. Ain't no sitting up and somebody else doing your homework or going back, baby. Listen, we sat down at the dinner table. We ate together. But when you got finished with all of that, all of the things that needed to be done in your life before you went back to school the next day had been addressed. Please believe it. Because at the end of the day, don't you go out of here like no orphan. You got a mama and daddy that cares about your education, that cares about your intelligence, that cares about the way you carry yourself. Don't you go out of here like that. Grandma said, don't you walk out of here looking like Who Shot John. Oh, Chef Nobi, I remember Who Shot John. Come on with it. And this is how our ancestors and our forefathers brought us. And now I look around and this is why we're needed. Maybe some of us just need to model something different to give people something to aspire toward. And at the Who Shot John, Dr. Dady, I know you've heard that. And at the end of the day, while some folks are reaching and aspiring to try to do something grandiose, maybe we just need to manifest some of the basics, some of the common sense, you understand what I'm saying? Some of those things that we were taught and grew up on that no longer exist in this generation. Maybe we need to manifest some of that. Now, and I'm not talking negatively against this generation because they got some things that we need to take from them. It's a two-way street. We need to bring something to the table. They have something to bring to the table, and let the old and the young go forth together. But let's go forth. So when I look at this, I love the fact that he's able to talk about and give his resume with no biting his tongue, with no lowering of his head. He just calls a spade a spade. It is what it is. Moreover, he kissed all his brethren and wept upon them. And after that, his brethren talked with him. Because now, remember, up to this point, they're scared and shaking in their boots because they know they did him wrong. He didn't talk about how they did him wrong. He just treated them right. Hello? He didn't talk about how they did him wrong. He just treated them right. And the fame thereof was heard in Pharaoh's house, saying, Joseph's brethren are come, and it pleased Pharaoh well and his servants. And Pharaoh said to Joseph, say unto thy brethren, this do ye, lade your beast and go, get you unto the land of Canaan, and take your father and your household, and come unto me, and I will give you the good of the land. He'll cause your enemies to be at peace with you. And really, Pharaoh wasn't an enemy. Joseph was just in a strange land, came in by way of servitude to Potiphar, then by way of being put in jail, and then God put him right there in view, in direct connection with Pharaoh. And once Pharaoh got to know him, he loved him. And all of that on Joseph's behalf. Now thou art commanded, this do ye, take you wagons out of the land of Egypt. You ain't even got to use your own stuff. I'll give you the stuff to go. For your little ones and for your wives, and bring your father and come. Also regard not your stuff, for the good of all the land of Egypt is yours. Come on here. And the children of Israel did so. And Joseph gave them wagons according to the commandment of Pharaoh, and gave them the provisions for the way. To all of them he gave each man changes of raiment, but to Benjamin he gave 300 pieces of silver and 5 changes of it. Come on here, because this is my baby brother. And to his father he sent after this manner 10 asses laden with the good things of Egypt, and 10 she-asses laden with corn and bread and meat for his father by the way. So he sent his brethren away, and they departed, and he said unto them, see that ye fall not out by the way. He took care of them, and that is so amazing. That mercy, that grace, that love, that compassion, that provision. That's how we move and operate. Even with those that have treated us ill. But again, in places of wrong, but still I'm going to continue to press and impress. Once he got to Egypt, he didn't go back to his father's house. Remember Manasseh and Ephraim. Remember, God has blessed me to forget the toil. Come on here. And my father's house. God has blessed me to be fat in the struggle. That's what God is doing through and for us. I want us to be encouraged, because without a doubt, I truly believe that as we come back in relationship and intimacy with God, God desires to raise us up to heal the land. Just like he told him, God did this through you so I could protect life. And this is a very precarious season right now. What we're going through, what we see, and I've determined at this point, I'm not going to distract myself with a whole lot of who shot John that's going on in the world. My goal is to get as many of us that know God, the people that do know their God shall be strong and do exploits. As many of us that do know God, that we bind together after we have come into the full intimacy with God one-on-one. That vertical, then the horizontal makes the cross. I want us to be so intimately in tune with God that we hear the difference between 7 years of famine, 7 years of plenty, and then even as was said, and I said that in the reverse, but I wasn't trying to do it in order, but in case somebody's like, she said 7 years. Okay, so let me say it in order. 7 years of plenty, and then 7 years of famine. But when you can be so on point like Joseph was, when he said, we've already done 2 years, it's 5 more years left. And he said it from his chest. He said it emphatically, no wavering, knowing for sure God showed me 7 years. It's 7 years. I want us to know God and flow in his presence, in his intimacy, in knowledge of him at that level. And it can be done. I think we've almost given up in some areas because when we see who men are and we see what people have become, it almost seems like it's impossible, but it's not. It's real. It's real. Listen, and I'm not going to charge you negatively or harshly because there have been times in my life I was like, God, it's, please tell me there's more than this. There's got to be more than this. But it's real. It's real. Believe that. And I'm done for tonight. I do want to say before I get out of here, where am I? I'm right at 6:53. I do want to say before I leave, I will be gone. I'm leaving in the morning, and I will be back. Let me look and see. I will be back. I gotta look at my calendar, child, because I barely remember myself. I will be back uh, on Thursday. Next Thursday, I will be back in Bible study. But between now and then, I will be absent. I'm not going to try and do this out of the country. But I do want you to continue reading. I do want you to continue and stay up with the study. And we'll come back and do a catch up. And I know even as I told Stay Lifted and the others of you who expressed that you wanted to have some time. Thank you so much, Chef Nobi. You wanted to have some time in Discord where we could actually talk face to face, see each other, and ask more questions and have more dialogue to expand and expound upon what we talked about in Bible study. Look forward to that when I come back after next Thursday. I'll put that in motion so that we can have that behind the scenes conversation that you all asked for. Thank you so much, truck driver. Good to see you, sweetheart. This is my time, and I just wanted to make that announcement so that we didn't miss. I didn't want you to come in here looking for me, and I'm not here. DJ Rock and Ron, I love you, sir. Thank you for coming in. One Reason, the Bishop of Twitch, I appreciate you. You know I love you. Chef Nobi in the house, I appreciate you for being here tonight. Coming on down, I saw Tall Pumps in the room earlier. It's so good to see you, sis. And I know you're lurking and listening, but I'm just glad when I see you anytime in the room. Nothing but mad love to you as well. Coming on down, Stay Lifted is the lifter of my head. Prophet line in the pathetic. I love it. I love it. I love it. One Reason, Stay Lifted. I'm coming on down, Tall Pumps. I just saw a truck driver who's in there. Dr. Dady Priest. That's my friend right there. I love me some you. Thank you for coming in tonight for Bible study. I appreciate you. Coming on down, and as I always say, I don't want to miss anybody. If I do, it's only because I didn't see you or I missed it when I was going back down trying to go too fast and overlooked it. But I think, is that everybody? I hope I didn't miss anybody that's in the room. Dalen, why do I always, my brain, and you'll say such profound things that bless me in such a way. Please don't think that, charge that to my eyes, definitely not to your presence here, because your presence is greatly valued. And I appreciate you. And I'm still feeding off of that. I'm telling you, I'm still feeding off of that you gave us the other night. So powerful. As are all of you. Your input is so marvelous. I love you with the love of God. I will be back on next Thursday, 6 o'clock. Listen, Dalen, you are precious. You are precious to my soul. You really, really are. You are precious into my soul. And I dare not omit you, because you are precious to this stream and to this Bible study. I appreciate you. Now, I will see you on next Thursday at 6 o'clock. So much love to every last one of you. And you know how I always like to end the stream. Peace for your journey.